Motherhood, but not quite as we imagine. Thought-provoking, refreshing, straightforward, sometimes taboo, often seemingly ordinary, but always honest. Welcome to School for Mothers, opening conversations we all need to have, exploring ways in which you can be fulfilled as a woman, once a mother. Now, here is your host, mother of 10, Harriet Malina-Derben.
Hello and welcome back to the School for Mothers podcast. I'm Harriet Malina-Derben, your host.
Now, my guest today has been quietly breaking a very specific generational curse. This generational curse affects millions, and I believe she has been trying to make sure that she doesn't bring this curse. I'm not sure how to say the rest of this. She just doesn't want this curse to affect her life and those further on in her lineage. So it's with great pleasure I introduce Harriet Malina-Derben, who is my daughter. Hello, Harriet.
Hello. Thank you for having me on the show, finally.
Oh, I see. I noticed the word finally.
I've been waiting patiently.
You've been waiting patiently, have you? Now, Harriet, what is this generational curse that you've been breaking?
So, I've noticed a lot in the way that people talk about their mothers and their mother and daughter relationships, that more often than not, women talk negatively about their mother. You know, the saying like, oh, I'm turning into my mother. Like, oh, I've got to spend time with her, or I need to text her, call her, as if it's...
Oh, she's so needy.
Yeah, exactly, like a burden. And more than that, in the media as well, and particularly TV shows, they kind of show how mothers don't understand what their daughters are going through, as if they haven't gone through exactly the same stuff themselves. And I make a conscious effort to understand that pretty much everything that I'm going through, you have gone through in some degree, or you have an opinion on it. It's not some sort of problem that's from another galaxy for you. And I just think that being connected to your mum is really important. I'm hoping you'll ask some other questions so I can put that forward in a better way in a minute, because it all sounded a bit rubbish, but I'm sure we'll get to it.
Hard. I mean, there's so much that's in your words, isn't there, about the way that potentially, I mean, I'm hearing you see or hear people denigrating their mothers, yeah?
So...
like they don't want to become her.
Yes, yeah. So one thing that really stuck out for me, I don't want to ruin it for anyone who watches Shrill, but I was watching Shrill series 2.
She's about to.
I'll try not to. And one of the big storylines in Shrill is that I actually can't remember any of their names. So the main girl, you'll know the one. She has an unusual relationship with her mother, because her mother clearly imposed quite a lot of dieting things and food restrictions on her as a child, and that's affected her confidence a lot. She's a plus size woman, so she's navigating that, and the story's great and it's really fabulous. But the mother-daughter relationship in Shrill really got me thinking, because they sort of act like the mum is, I don't know, I feel like they left out the part that the mother has been subjected to the same sort of pressures, that she's a product of her own pressures, like her mother may have done that to her, and then it just becomes a bit self-obsessed from the daughter's point of view, like, oh, how could she, like, well, maybe she can do that because she's gone through it herself and she hasn't unpicked it, and maybe it's the daughter's responsibility to be part of that recovery and showing her, look, there's another way, rather than like, ugh, my mum won't eat a pudding at dinner because she always has to limit the pleasure that she gets from food. Or why don't you teach her, rather than rolling your eyes and getting cross and angsty like a 15-year-old? How about you actually say, Mum, you deserve pleasure from food. It makes me sad that you don't enjoy food because you want to watch your weight all the time. It's affected me and it's affected you. Let's sort this out together, because it's not something that's being done just to me. It's being done to you as well as a woman.
So is this because there's this kind of underlying assumption that the mother negates herself, that she disappears or ought to disappear on herself, like she doesn't exist. What's most important is the child. Is that what you're getting at? That when the woman, a potential, girl says, oh, she does this, she does that, it's because it's being done to her, and the mother's like, I don't know, not as important?
Definitely. I think that there's the expectation that everything that's gone before the child just sort of washes away. You're a mother now, nothing else matters. Like, they had a life before, had experiences, positive and negative, that are going to impact how they mother you.
What? There was life?
I know, it's crazy. It's a mad idea.
Harriet?
Well, barely before me.
But I had 4 other children before you, yes? Just to put this in context, Harriet is my eldest daughter. She's the 5th child of 10. And more than that, we work together.
We do.
On a daily basis. So it's yeah. We'll come to that in a minute. But was there a life before you?
Of course.
How do you feel about that?
The word that comes to mind, like, sensible. Like, I don't know if that makes any sense.
Thank fuck for that. You're sensible.
But it's just like, if you meet a friend, you don't expect, like, what do you mean you had friendships before me, or kind of experiences before I turned up? Like, your mother is a person, and
hold on, say that again.
Your mother is a person. Like that. It's not. I don't know. I think that people forget that a mother has their own viewpoints and experiences that are going to impact how they parent you and how they advise you. And it's not always going to be perfect, because actually they won't have had a perfect upbringing from their parents, and they won't have had perfect experiences. They're all, they're in a patriarchal society themselves. They're not sort of living in this bubble of motherhood where, oh, everything's perfect, my pie's just baked. Like, it's, they've got shit to deal with too. So, of course, in Shrill, when the mum doesn't feel like she can have a dessert, the focus is on the daughter rolling her eyes, like getting cross and angsty, and the mother's almost the baddie in the situation, when really, I mean, get that camera on the mother and say, why the fuck doesn't she enjoy food?
Mm. So the idea that the child is taking everything personally.
Completely.
That it's all revolving around, except let's just tweak the word child.
Yeah.
You're not talking about a 7-year-old.
No.
So clearly, the younger we are, the more that we do genuinely believe that the world revolves around us, and ought to. We're entitled to that. But as we get older, we hopefully realise that actually that's not the case.
Exactly.
Except that a lot that's put out there about mothers is that no matter how old the child is, they ought to be the focus of the mother's life. Like, you're 30? I'm not suggesting you are 30, by the way. Listen, she's not 30.
I'm 12.
No, it's very articulate 12, yes. but nevertheless, that as even if you were 30, that actually there's an expectation that you ought to be the centre of my life. Let's bring it to us. I mean, are you the centre of my life?
No, and I wouldn't ever want that. Oh, no.
What makes you go, oh, no?
It's just weird. Like, it's just totally weird. Like, obviously I understand it when they're younger, but even then, that's not healthy. Like, if you said to me, oh, Harriet, you need to make sure that your boyfriend is the centre of your life, I'd be, have you fallen, and bumped your head?
I have actually.
Yeah, you have actually done that, but you haven't given me
Recently,
any shoddy.
I had a little accident and I did bump my head.
You didn't give me any shoddy advice about men, so you're all fine. Yeah, I think that there is this thing where adult children still hold themselves as the child in a relationship, when I think that it gets to a point when, yes, you're still the daughter of somebody, like I am still your daughter.
You will always be.
But I'm not your child, apart from when we park in a mother and baby or, parent and child spot, then we will use that.
You can't tell listeners that. You can't tell them. Okay, I have 3 car seats in the car.
It works. It's fine.
Okay, let's move on swiftly. Yeah, anyway. Come on.
Yeah, but you move on from being the child. You're an adult. Like, it's just strange. Like, you can't always be the one that needs to be chased or nagged or, you know, mollycoddled, because you're an adult, and, you know, lots of people have children and they still want to be treated like a child themselves in their sort of father-daughter, mother-daughter, you know, whatever way around.
Oh, but it's a bit different with fathers, isn't it? I mean, you just mentioned fathers, Harriet.
Yeah, I think, there's probably a different dynamic, which I don't think I'm the best person to talk on, to be honest.
I fancy you're fudging it.
Yeah, I think there is a different dynamic. There's the kind of, I think it's this particular almost competitive element of mother-daughter that impacts it even more, just the same way that, you know, it suits the patriarchy really nicely for women to compete, and to also have mothers and daughters, to have that relationship sort of stereotyped as tricky and dysfunctional and not fun. That also helps, because it stops like a passing down of learning from mother to daughter. I mean, beyond sort of the usual stuff, but like on an ongoing basis, like, you know things now that you didn't know when I was 16. Like, you've grown as a woman, just as I have. You've experienced more. If we decided when I was 16, just like, right, that teaching part's done, and now it's just a sort of formal relationship, then we'd miss out on so much sort of, I don't know,
wisdom and power.
Yeah, exactly. In connection with something that, like, you know loads, I know loads. We're both exploring the world still, and why not be really close?
But it sounds like you have a model of mother and daughter that, for us, that has more equality built into it than, let's say, stories out there allow. We are supposed to hate each other.
Yeah.
Aren't we? You're supposed to be... Let's just go to... by the way, I'm going to preface this with there are individuals that have heinous upbringings that mean they don't want to have a relationship with their mother.
Of course.
I know that. And I'm happy to talk about my own, you know, difficult relationship amongst our conversation here. But for us, you're supposed to have decided when you were a teenager, surely, that you thought I was an absolute arsehole and slightly embarrassed by me, or like, oh God, you know, all of those kinds of, oh, she needs too much, or she doesn't behave right, or she's an embarrassment because she's not fashionable, or she's fat, or whatever it is. There'll be a critique of the mother that you have to reject in order to be the woman that you are.
Yeah, it's like a holding at arm's length kind of thing. And if it's not negative, it's almost patronising. Like, oh, it's my mum. Oh, she's so cute. Like, oh, look at her. She's trying to be trendy. Like, ooh, just, I don't know. If someone spoke...
Well, you never had to do that one.
No, of course not.
Because I've never tried to be trendy.
No, not that one. But you know what I mean?
I know.
Yeah, of course. But I'd hate if, you know, Isadora, who's my little sister, she's 19. Yeah.
Yeah, she's just at university.
Yeah, if she started talking about me like I was some sort of granny, then I'd be like, do you mind, Isadora? I might be a bit older, but, you know, and it's the same thing. Like,
but isn't
I wouldn't talk down about you?
Well, see, isn't there inherent in what you've just said, this downgrading of womanhood as, you know, you've just said, which is granny. Oh, a granny. I mean, like...
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'll take that. You know,
it's like it's almost like we have gradations of, what is it? Ideal womanhood?
Well, I said granny because I don't know why I said granny, because I like a lot of things that I think a stereotypical granny would like, and I wouldn't be offended by the term.
So what were you getting at?
Yeah, I think I was just being ageist. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay,
yeah, I think
cool.
I was just being ageist. I'm really sorry.
No, that's fantastic.
I wasn't I? That was awful.
No, that's not awful.
No, I'm joking. Edit that out, Marie.
Marie is our really fantastic podcast editor. In case you don't know, maybe I'll invite Marie onto the podcast, because she's in the background always making these amazing episodes with us. So
tinkering away,
doing her magic. So thank you, Marie. we won't take that out because it's really, actually, we were really demonstrating on the hoof here, because it is, we haven't prepared this.
No.
You probably realise that anyway. Is that, our relationship involves challenge, and challenge isn't the same as, what's the word? I not hatred, but what's another one? Like a disparaging contempt. There's a good word. Contempt is a lot at the heart of mother and daughter relationships.
Yeah.
Often daughter to mother, I guess, sometimes mother to daughter.
Yeah.
I think my mother was relatively contemptuous. I had two mothers, by the way. I'm greedy kind. I have a biological mother and I have an adopted mother. And so I got two big whammies of doing this thing called mother-daughter. And so I've, because of my multiple relationships with mothers, I've had a gamut of kind of experiences, both from wonderful, joyful closeness through to pretty horrible, abusive over the years. Now, that's my interpretation, by the way, obviously. Neither of them are here on this podcast, so they couldn't really say anything. They might see it very, very differently. I was quite challenging and feisty. I know you're really, really shocked.
Doesn't sound like you.
Does it, Harriet?
So
I've changed. I'm a mere shadow of my former self. But as a mother, I can see what a bloody pain I must have been.
A handful.
And so what I would have perceived as, she's such an abusive mother. Now, as an adult, I think, no, actually, this was a woman who was dealing with her stuff with very little emotional resources around her to support her. She was dealing with that stuff brought from her upbringing, doing her best for me, fucking it up royally quite frequently. I'm talking about my adopted mother, by the way, to be very clear. She's the one that raised me. And doing her best, that's it. I don't have anything else to say. So for me, I perceive it very differently now than I did in the throes of the moment. Unfortunately, when we make very big decisions when we're in the throes of something and big kind of boundaries are out, that's it. No more. No, that kind of thing. And I hear it quite a lot of women saying, I don't have a relationship with my mother. She just can't seem to insert whatever the situation is. And I wonder, what would it have to be, Harriet, for you to say, right, that's it, enough, I'm not seeing my mother? Can you think of anything that I would? I'm curious. We've never talked about it.
I think it would have to be something really horrific, or like a genuine change in your behaviour, like a long-term change. Like, I don't know, like.
Yeah, it's hard for you to actually imagine.
Yeah, I can't really think of it.
So I'd have to become somebody else.
Yeah, literally. Like it.
Let's hope I don't get some kind of
long-term,
degenerative mental faculty illness. In which case I don't. But even then, you'd have a context.
Yeah, well, then I'd support you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice to know it's on recording. We do discuss nursing homes, don't we?
Often.
Yes.
Yeah, good to keep your options open.
Oh, I see. We drive past nursing homes here in the southeast of England.
There's a lot.
And yes, there's a lot. There's a lot of aged ladies and gentlemen in the homes, and it's by the sea. And sometimes there are great big banners saying vacancy. What do you say?
I don't have a particular line, but it's usually along the lines of, you could pop in there, take a look round.
Yep, it started. It's actually very unfair.
Sounds quite nice though, doesn't it? I mean, obviously all nursing homes are not made equal.
No, they're
I'm
not.
aware of that. But,
no.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, we do talk about care of mothers in their older years, which I'm not there yet. But I'm acutely aware of this whole idea of being a burden. Oh, it's not an idea, it's a reality. There are so many women, aren't there, who are raising young children, as the triplets are, quite young, and also having to care for or choosing to care for their mother. Yeah? No, you don't have children of your own, do you?
No, I don't. No.
No. So it's quite feasible that when I'm quite an old lady, you might find yourself, encumbered or not. Said her nursing homes.
I've already got you a spot. There's no worries. No, I'm joking. No, of course that is a concern. I'm lucky because I've got lots of siblings, but not many of them are as competent as I am. So,
why do you think they're not as competent as you?
I think.
Let's hope they don't listen.
Shout out to all my siblings.
Yes.
I think because I'm the eldest girl and because we're really close.
Some would say the favourite, wouldn't they?
I've got a pillow. I've got a pillow with it on. So
what?
Yeah, you got me a pillow that says
what?
You are my favourite.
What?
Yes.
I did that.
Yes.
That's bold. Mothers are not meant to have favourites, are they?
No. Yeah, I think that it would probably. Well, I think I probably lead the care. Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm all right then on this, am I?
Yeah.
How did you feel about our relationship when you were a teenager?
I didn't really think about it much. I wasn't really a very angsty teenager, particularly.
You were a bit weird, actually.
I'm still a bit weird.
Well, you were actually really introverted.
Completely,
and you're still, quite an introvert, aren't you? But you certainly weren't acting out. Sorry,
no,
you were about to say
sorry.
something.
I can remember when I was 15 or something, 15, 16. I think that the summer between year 11 and year 12, I think that was my angstiest time, and I was like, God, I can't wait to move out. I don't know what I was talking about. I was at boarding school, so I was practically out of the house already. But I can remember being like, oh, God, when will this end? And yeah, I mean, but that I can really picture that moment. We were in a supermarket, big sort of department store in Spain. And I was just really just like, oh, God, mother. But that was a sort of, it wasn't about anything unusual or important, but I just remember that as a sort of hilarious, angsty moment. But other than that, we've had a good relationship.
Is this the moment where you...
Until now, no.
Oh,
no,
dear.
It's not going to become a Jeremy Kyle episode.
Yet, yeah. Yes, yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. I'm grateful. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because it's not all about the daughter, is it? It's for many mothers, it's an absolute fucking nightmare raising daughters.
Yeah.
An absolute nightmare.
Completely. Yeah.
And it often can go from, and I know that I've had, delightful relationships with daughters that are just idyllic and loving and close, and we go shopping together and we do things together, and it's mummy and mama and then suddenly it's, I don't know what to say, but it's changed. It's changed. They can't bear to look at you. 1 minute you're incredibly close. And of course, what we're really talking about are those hormonal swings. And so what doesn't get and can't be understood by the child at the time, if we're talking about real children, and the youngsters, is that actually while that child is going through their hormonal upswings and downswings and upswings again and all over the show, so's the mother.
Yeah.
So her monthly cycle, and then, depending on when one gave birth, perimenopausal or menopausal, and the intersection of all those hormones. And I remember when the triplets were little, the toddlers, and there was 3 young women, plus myself, 3 young daughters, all with periods, plus myself, and 3 toddlers. And I remember thinking, this is complete madness. And it wasn't that long ago. So absolutely complete madness. And that was hell. And actually, I felt like I had nowhere to go. And it wasn't that I didn't love anybody. I love all of you. It's just the roller coaster of emotions.
And the intensity as well.
It's actually about the intensity. I think there's an intensity. It reminds me of female friendships, actually. There's an intensity to mother and daughter and loaded expectations that are the intense, perfect mother model.
Yeah, it's very one way. It's not, there's a lot of give on the daughter's side. I mean, sort of
expectations of being given
exactly.
to.
Like, they're teenagers. Yeah, of course they're teenagers. Fabulous, whatever. They've got to grow, make silly decisions. But then there's not a lot on the mother's side of sort of like, she's human. She's, dealing with her own things. Might be something small, might be something huge, might be the menopause, might be just her normal cycles. She's got a life,
Yeah. She's got her own things that she's dealing with. Yes.
Yeah.
And I wonder when it's the right time to begin. Oh, maybe there isn't a right time, actually. I've just thought. But if there is a right time, when a young woman could be open to that suggestion, that perhaps the woman that gave birth to her or is raising her actually is a human too. When does that?
You should start from birth.
Yeah.
Shouldn't, I think, start from birth. And it's
How?
How
will you do it differently? If you have,
if I have children. I don't think I'd do it necessarily differently, but how would I do it? Because differently suggests that you've done it wrong.
I didn't mean differently than me. I mean, do I really genuinely
how would
mean
I
from
do
the
it?
narrative of things?
Ooh, hard to picture me having children. I'd make sure that my children knew that I was a human and completely flawed and perfect as I am, just how they want to be viewed or should be viewed. Not one thing or the other.
All of it.
Yeah, all of it.
Perfect.
Just like we all are. Perfect, flawed, brilliant.
Fallible.
Yeah, fallible. Yeah, wonderful, bright, positive.
Stupid.
Shitty and awful.
Yeah, messy.
Yeah, just human. Like
human, yes.
That's the long and short of it. Just human. And
Here's to all human mothers. Yeah. And all human daughters.
Yes.
I love this conversation.
Me too. It's been fun.
Thank you, Harriet.
Love you.
Love you.
Thank you for tuning in to the School for Mothers podcast. To continue the conversation and keep your dose of inspiration up, head over to schoolformothers.com/podcast, where you'll find bonus content from Danusha and her guests on habits, recommendations, books, best apps, time-saving secrets, life hacks, health, sleep and anything in between. That's schoolformothers.com/podcast.